Welcome to Studio 125 for another week of Bobcat Breakdown. We have all things covered as well, volleyball covered as well as men's and women's soccer, and winter sports are on the horizon. We have all that and much more on Bobcat Breakdown, which starts right now. Welcome to Bobcat Breakdown. I'm your host, David Marr. Alongside me are my sweet mates, men's soccer beat reporter Dylan Sommer and volleyball beat reporter Gage Kilburn. You guys ready for tonight?
I'm really looking forward to it, David. A lot of debate between volleyball and soccer. Really, well, you, Dylan, what do you feel about all this?
I'm really excited. My question is, are you ready for it?
I'm looking forward to crushing you.
All right, guys, let's get started. With 6 first years on the volleyball team making a huge impact this season, are these first years good enough to carry the team heading into the start of MAC play, or will the gas tank hit empty? Gage, let's start with you. What are your thoughts?
All right. If they asked me this question last year when I first covered this team, I would say they'll be out of energy, out of gas, no question about it. But after a year in, I know how this team works and operates, and always trust the process when it comes to Kyle Robinson. Are they starting off 2-9? Yes. But I think they're going to finish off strong. Last season, they started off 2-9 as well, and they finished 9-9 and went to the MAC semifinals. And we're just a few sets short of making it to the finals against Fairfield.
I would have to agree with you. This tank is going to be full, if not overflowing, I would say. These first years are just adding fuel to the fire. We have the Ganesh sisters. We have Georgia Donahue and Geneva Giovagnoni as well. And then you have Nicole Legg and Ariana Diaz, who are having good years for them being upperclassmen and all. They're still contributing to this roster, and they just got to put the pieces together because they have the talent.
They do. They really do. And the other one to mention is Alexandra Tenen. She's been, usually you see sophomores, you hear the term sophomore slump. Why wouldn't you coin a new phrase, sophomore surge? Because that's what she's been having so far this season. Leading the team in kills, and being one of the strong dividends going forward for on pace for over 300 kills this season.
And they're already on to a nice start, beating Siena. Now that we just have to see what they can do in the future.
That's really good, guys. Those are really good points as the team gets into MAC play. Following a win over Siena, Dylan, serve me up your roster for Kyle Robinson's team.
I'm going to go one by one. We're going to start with outside hitter Ariana Diaz, opposite Alexander Tenen, middle blocker Nicole Legg, setter Damla Ganesh, and then her sister at libero Yamir Ganesh, and right side hitter Geneva Giovagnoni. Now, I could just go ahead and name the stats for all of these players right now, but one in particular that I want to hammer home is the instant impact that Geneva Giovagnoni has made to this Bobcats offense. 3.3 points per game, 89 kills, 2.97 kills per set, and she's a double-double machine, Gage.
Giovagnoni, all right, I'm going to take you to Professor Gage's Volleyball 101 for a second here. So Giovagnoni, after she started off hot, winning MAC Player of the Week, she fell apart, and her hitting percentage pretty much shows it. When she got that award, she had a .310 hitting percentage. She followed that up with her last few games, .074. So she's fallen off the cliff and has really been struggling. So to take over that spot, I'm not wrong in this whatsoever. I have Damla Ganesh as a setter, and Ariana Diaz as one of the hitters on the left. On the right, I have Alexandra Tenen. But I have Favak Kimsel-Mo as libero. She is a stronger libero than Yagmir Ganesh by far, but I have still Yagmir Ganesh as defensive specialist in the backcourt, as well as I also have Nicole Legg, because she's been using her size to her advantage and is able to get blocks and come through phenomenally as well. So overall, that is definitely the MAC championship caliber team that's going to take them the distance.
Well, so far it's been their first years that have been really leading this team, and I think Giovagnoni, she had a really good start. She just has to keep going with what she had started, get that momentum back.
I would take Georgia Donahue over Giovagnoni. Giovagnoni started off strong, but Donahue has been the one that's been really the strong driving force that nobody talks about. Like, look at her performance against Siena that helped them with a win. She came through with a few key blocks in the third and fourth set. Although they lost those sets, she was the one that kept them in those sets to have them a chance at clinching it earlier on in that match.
Well, you also have to look at the offense and defense side of it, Gage. 75 digs, 2.50 digs per set for Giovagnoni. I mean, she could really do it all, and I think you're really limiting her in her abilities.
I'm not limiting her in her abilities. It's more the fact that she does well defensively, but you also need to have someone to back up the offense of Tenon and Diaz. And when you start off strong and you can't finish it, that's a making for a weak link on the outside attack.
I really got to go with Professor Gage's system over here. That sounds fantastic. Let's kick things over to soccer as the Quinnipiac women's soccer team is off to a 6-1 start. Now, while the offense has been excellent for the Bobcats, they do have 2 shutouts to start MAC play. So should the defense be getting attention for the Bobcats' hard start, Gage?
It's not the defense. It is the offense. The offense has been driving through without effect. And I know leading off, we're going to talk about Rebecca Cook, with her 10 goals, 23 points on the season for Rebecca Cook already. And I know you're going to say, Dylan, that's just one player. So we're going to name a few others. Courtney Chokel, Paige LaBerge. These are the offense that is leading the soccer team and just driving them through to have outscoring their opponents by double. They've outscored their opponents 19-10. 19-10. So it's been a strong start for the offense. And they're the highest scoring offense in the MAC so far this season.
Well, how are they scoring those goals, Gage?
Because they're getting
on the
easy
defensive
goals.
end? What's happening on the defensive end? Sophia Lospinoso is one MAC Player of the Week as of recently. 25 saves, 1.43 goals allowed per game, a .714 save percentage, 5-1-1 record, 2 clean sheets against 2 MAC opponents. How are they gonna win if they don't have defense, Gage?
Dylan, I'm gonna throw another stat at you. Have you looked at the save percentage standings in the MAC?
Okay.
Quinnipiac is currently sitting 9th out of 11. So you want to save a strong defense, and they're currently sitting 9th in save percentage in the MAC. Fairfield leads that category with that .833 percentage. Quinnipiac, .722. So you can say all about you want about the clean sheets, but let me know when you have a scoring average that leads the MAC with 2.375 and a scoring margin of 1.13.
Well, how is Cook getting the ball, Gage?
She's getting it from the assist. I mean, that's what I'm saying.
And from the defense.
How is she getting it from the defense? It's from the offensive attack. You're pretty much proving my point.
You bring the
by
defense.
your saying Rebecca Cook is getting the ball from who? From the offensive attack of the forwards.
But how are they getting the ball up the pitch?
Okay, they're
Exactly.
getting from the defenders.
There
but,
you go.
Okay, but look at here. Look at here. It's got to be. Well, who does she get it from there? The midfielders and the forwards. It's the forwards that keep on the attack that let the defense stay loose and not make these easy saves.
But that's what sets up the plays. The defense is where it starts, and that's why Rebecca Cook is doing so well right now.
It's not because of the defense. If it's a defense, then they'll have a higher save percentage than .722.
I mean, you guys both make really good points. Maybe the Bobcats' best defense is their offense. That could be that's one of the points I'm going to throw out here. All right, well, let's take our first break of the night. When we come back, we'll talk more soccer and discuss women's ice hockey after sweeping Maine in Orono this past weekend. Don't go anywhere.
Type 2 diabetes can have a big impact on your life, but how can it be prevented? Well, the first step is knowing if you have prediabetes, a serious medical condition that puts you at high risk for type 2 diabetes. 1 in 3 American adults has prediabetes, but more than 80% don't know they have it. The good news is, prediabetes can be reversed, and for many people, healthy changes in their daily routine can make a big difference. Take the 1-minute risk test today at doihaveprediabetes.org.
When we adopt a shelter pet, we discover they're a unique mix of all kinds of things.
Come on, Drew, spot on this last one. There it is. Keep going with it. Leo.
They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love.
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made home ownership happen. Homeschooling yourself on loans, beefing up your credit score.
So I'm pre-approved.
You were like, yes! Sorry. Color coding listings, ticking boxes, and flushing every toilet in a 20-mile radius. Home sweet home. You aced house hunting. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
I know what you're thinking. I need a job. I need a new career.
Well,
I've been there.
I've been there.
I've been there. I wasn't happy with what I was doing.
After high school, I didn't have a plan.
I just wanted to start working.
I got laid off twice. But you gotta keep
You
going.
just need the right skills. Find an apprenticeship.
I found a 2-year IT program.
I found a medical course online.
I'm now a consultant in the tech space.
You have more options than you think. You can do this.
You will find something.
You will find something new.
We welcome you back to Bobcat Breakdown, as both soccer teams are set to take on Siena this Wednesday. Which team is better to be equipped to make a long run in conference play? Men or women, Gage?
Women. No question about it. It's the easiest decision to make in all of this. Women's soccer team has 14 players who have played at least 300 minutes this season. And that is, to get you an idea, that's a lot of playing time. And head coach Dave Clark does a great job diversifying and spreading the ball around, not to just one star, but to everybody to have a chance at the ball. And comparing that to just 10 players on the men's team have played at least 300 minutes. That's pretty much saying how spread out the women's team is. And with those extra playing time from those 4 other players, that can really help out when you go down to the MAC tournament and down in the future.
Well, this is just all wrong. I mean, look at the men's team and what they've done without Brog-Austin. Yes, they haven't gotten to the MAC play yet, but if you look at this team, Bercedo, Hawley, McCann, Budai, Sakula, they have all stepped up and combined for 16 goals in Austin's absence. 10 separate goal scorers on this team as well. And you were talking about how the women have so many. They only have 6, Gage. Rebecca Cook and Chokol have really only been their offense and what's really been getting those goals. All the rest, we haven't really seen as much from them.
Dylan, they played cupcake teams. Honestly, look at the schedule they played. CCSU, Sacred Heart, Harvard, and Stonehill. Okay, Harvard they lost to, which is respectable. But CCSU and Sacred Heart, Stonehill, are you seriously kidding me? Stonehill just made D1 this year, and they crushed them 7-2 because they're pretty much playing a bunch of D1, D2 athletes at this rate. So just by saying that, although you said, yeah, Brog-Austin's hurt, they did a great job backing him up, but they were playing cupcake teams. Brog-Austin's coming in for the real deal, and once he comes in, you're going to see how there's not much depth to this men's roster. That's why women's roster is more in depth, because they're starting to play MAC play, and they've really showed their depth in their roster already.
And where's Niagara rank right now in the MAC, Gage? Exactly.
Niagara what? Men's or women's? You got to be more specific than just Niagara.
Women's.
All right, they're one of the top teams. Yeah, I know they're one of the lower teams, but still.
So your case isn't clear.
What do you mean my case isn't clear?
You're talking about cupcake matchups. The women's team has had as many cupcake matchups as the men's.
But at least Niagara's played D1 for more than one season.
Yeah,
and
so the men's team hasn't played MAC opponents yet. But you're going to see this Wednesday against Siena exactly what they're capable of.
But they have. I know it's capable. I know you said cupcake team, but still, at least their team is all together playing MAC teams, and they played all throughout the season together. It wasn't just Brog-Austin just saying, I don't want to play these few games and wait until this regular season, the MAC season kicks off.
But they're resting Austin. That's the point.
Dylan, you brought up men's soccer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's take things over to the men's soccer team as they take on Siena this Wednesday. They're 5-2-1 heading into MAC play. 8 games in on a scale of 1 to 10, Dylan. How confident are you about this team moving forward?
I'm going to give them an 8.
What?
This team is looking confident on the field. What do you mean, what? It plays off to the public eye. And if you look at how they recruited with Sterngard and Del Seuss and Schreienbeck, João Pinto, all these guys that they got, they're contributing right away. They're undefeated at home. You said cupcake matchups, but it doesn't matter. They're developing.
How does cupcake teams not matter?
They're developing team chemistry in this process of playing those teams. And if they can get their rhythm on both offense and defense going, they're going to prepare themselves for the MAC.
Okay. I am going to do a quote. I said a 4 for men's soccer because they start. Here's the reason why I say a 4 for them. It's just, I don't want to give them too much confidence because if you give them too much confidence, they'll fall apart. We saw it happen last season when they went strong. They beat BC. They had a good start, but then when they faced New Hampshire, a ranked opponent, and they fell off the wagon, that's when they saw the wheels fall off on what could have been a season to remember, going to the NCAA tournament and become a MAC champions. But they fell apart. Not only did they fall apart, they didn't even qualify for the MAC tournament. That is where I feel that this team is still the same team from last season. They lost a few key pieces like Paulo Suarez, but overall, I still think they have that same mentality going into the MAC play, and it's that type of mentality that's going to be dangerous while the season kicks off.
You name one player in Suarez. What about all the first years that have come in and stepped up right away?
They've stepped up, but they haven't. I don't think they'll be too overly confident to take control of the MAC.
Well, even though the men's team is 5-2-1, they had a similar non-conference record last season before finishing 4-6 in the MAC. Dylan, that 4-6 record, do you think it will happen again this season?
I don't think so. I think they're going to go back to their. Why are you shaking your head again? 2021 form where they had a 5-1 conference record, and last year they were 4-6 in the MAC. We've already seen this team has improved heavily on the offensive side, just destroying teams. Yes, they're cupcake matchups, but if you look at the same matchups last year, they weren't putting up that kind of numbers, even getting a record for that Stonehill game for the amount of goals that they got for that game. And as I mentioned before, this is momentum coming in to keep MAC play coming ahead. They rank first in their division after non-conference matchups with a 5-2-1 record, and there's high hopes for this team.
There is high hopes. There was high hopes for last year's team too. That's why I'm saying they're going to fall apart. It's going to be the same as last year. I know you're going to be like in disagreement, but this right here is a biased beat reporter right here, fans, because he thinks that they're going to go back to where they're supposed to be. No, Dylan, they're not, because they're going to be taking that confidence level too high, the Stonehill 7-2 victory. Yeah, they're cupcake teams. Last year they played solid teams, and they beat them, and because of it, they fell apart. And it was because they had too much confidence going in. Once they crushed these teams that they played, like Stonehill, CCSU, and Sacred Heart, they crush them. They're like feeling pretty good entering MAC play. But they forgot they had to face the Mount. Mount St. Mary's has entered the MAC, and they are for real. They're a team to watch out for, and they're real championship contenders. As that is something that honestly I think they're my pick to win the MAC title in my eyes. So overall, Dylan, I see them making the tournament, but I don't see them going anywhere past the quarterfinals.
I think you're missing a big point here in the fact that you have not gone to a single men's soccer game and you haven't watched them at all. So,
wow, that's a great rebuttal.
That is a great rebuttal. That's why I think he won that one. All right, well, let's hit the ice, guys. Let's discuss women's ice hockey, as they were in Orono, Maine last weekend, and they swept the University of Maine Black Bears. Now, with Corrine Schroeder gone, who do you see becoming the new shining star for women's ice hockey after back-to-back wins? Gage.
This is a tough choice because I've seen these two play for going to be about 3 years now, seeing both Angers and Boudier take the net. And it's got to be Angers because she has the experience. She knows she has the experience in what she's doing. She's been there, and she's been the main starter ever since Abby Ives left. So I don't see anybody else that can take over. She has the most experience when it comes to taking on the top teams, such as the Hockey East opponents, the ECAC opponents. She has that experience. All Boudier has is LIU, St. A's, and Maine. Not much competition. Although they're all shutouts or only get one goal, that's still not much competition.
Yeah, this is the one time I have to agree with you here. Angers has been their keeper for longer than Boudier has, and it's really we're gonna find out this season, because I made a prediction about Peretz a year ago from today, and that didn't really go that well. So we'll see what happens here, but I think Angers, it's her job to lose.
I have to agree with both of you guys, although my shining star would be Captain Lexi Agia. She's been tremendous so far. Now, we've got a ton of games this weekend. Men's ice hockey getting started. As we mentioned, men's and women's soccer on Wednesday. We have volleyball. Gage, I'll start with you. What game are you looking forward to this weekend? Let me take a guess. It's volleyball against Fairfield.
How did you know?
I mean, you covered volleyball, so
I'm looking forward.
Obvious guess.
I'm honestly looking forward to KJ Johnson back out there. I mean, do I think they're going to win? No, I don't. But just watching her play, it's flawless. She was one kill shy of 500 last season. The Baylor transfer really came through and kind of shined a lot of light on the MAC for volleyball, showing off what it can do, what it has to offer. And with that, it's more of just seeing her style of play once more before she graduates.
I'm also going to pick Fairfield, but for men's soccer this Saturday. Last year, Fairfield came out with a 1-0 victory, but hey, this Bobcats team, as we've been talking about, they have a lot of momentum right now, and they could definitely right what happened last year.
I'm going to throw my name into the hat and say men's ice hockey taking the ice for the first time this weekend, Saturday against Toronto, Sunday against Providence. And you can tune into the call on QBSN as me and Matt Mugno will have the call for you at 4 p.m. from the newly named M&T Bank Center up on York Hill this weekend. But can't wait to see all the fans there. And I'm really excited to see year 2 of Yaniv and all these depth players that Rand Pecknold's bringing into his system. I think that they're going to, we get to see them in action for the first time, and I can't wait to see what this team does. Obviously disappointing end of the season last year, but I'm really excited to see men's hockey take the ice, along with women's hockey, because they looked really good this past weekend up in Orono. Home opener for the women on Friday against BC and on Sunday against New Hampshire. Let's go to the second intermission here on Bobcat Breakdown. When we come back, we'll visit the QBSN Game of the Week before getting into our final roars. We'll be right back.
Honey, what I think you need is a socket wrench.
I played JV basketball.
I'm sorry. I don't think it looks right.
This is good, and it's all good, baby.
Is it really all good?
If you love me enough to routinely test your handyman skills, not to mention the strength of your marriage, then of course you'll visit nhtsa.gov/therightseat to make sure I'm in the right car seat.
I'm gonna call my dad.
I think it's just vapor with flavor.
It won't hurt my kid like cigarettes, right?
Vaping is safer than smoking, isn't it?
There's really not even that much nicotine in them, right?
My kid?
My kid knows it's dangerous.
Get your head out of the cloud. Today, nearly 8,000 kids will start vaping, maybe even yours. Learn about the dangers at talkaboutvaping.org.
Meet the scan, a simple procedure whose mission is to detect lung cancer early.
I'm here to save you.
But I feel fine.
That's great, but you may still be at high risk for lung cancer.
Oh man, that's a new fence.
If you smoke, early detection could save your life. Learn more at savedbythescan.org.
I don't think that many kids in my son's school even do it.
He makes fun of his friend who vapes.
He would never try it.
She's into soccer.
She's on the honor roll.
She's just not the type.
No way.
No way.
No way.
No way, my kid would never vape.
Get your head out of the cloud. Today, nearly 8,000 kids will start vaping, maybe even yours. Learn about the dangers at talkaboutvaping.org.
Welcome back to Bobcat Breakdown, as it's time to look at our QBSN Game of the Week. The women's volleyball team defeated Siena in 5 sets this past Saturday for their first conference win of the season. Now, despite the Saints coming back from down 2 sets in the game, the Bobcats won set 5, 15-13, including a 10-point rally to win the game. Alexander Chenin and Ariana Diaz led the Bobcats in kills with 16 and 14 respectively. Tenon was also big on defense for the Bobcats as she had 16 digs in the game. Volleyball is back in action this Saturday when they head to Fairfield to take on the in-state rival Stags at 1 p.m. It's that time once again, as it's time to get into our final roars. Gage, we'll start with you. Take it away.
Thank you, David. At Quinnipiac, we talk a lot about the stats of the soccer, hockey, and basketball teams. But there is one sport that gets overlooked on campus, the women's cross-country team. But I'm not going to talk about the team as a whole. I'm going to talk about one of the best runners in program history, Emily Young. A high school phenom out of Camillus, New York, she proved to be one of the best runners in the state. With all the success she received in high school, she did not let that faze her when she entered the collegiate stage. She kept on running, and as a result, she saw her time steadily speed up to the point where she is the premier runner on the team. This past week, the team ran at the Boston College Invitational. She finished 24th overall and the top finisher on the team for the second time this season out of 3 meets. Young also has a pair of top 10 finishes to match the top 25 finish in Boston College. Next time you are curious about Quinnipiac sports, take a look around all the sports that this wonderful university has to offer. not just the sports the media quickly turns to.
It's been 2 years since the Quinnipiac men's tennis team has returned to their home court. The status of the construction of the new courts has been up in the air, and it's still unknown when they are going to be completed. It can get tiring for sports teams to only travel on the road and never get to play in front of their home crowd. Nonetheless, this team has overcome the lack of a home court advantage and are currently dominating on the road. On the men's side, Donovan Brown and Ayato Arakaki earned a pair of wins to lead the way for the Bobcats in Fairfield's Invitational. The former All-MAC first team number 2 doubles pairing from a season ago have started where they left off with a 2-0 record. First year Sunad Nonyardi and Andreas Whalen Melendez recorded their first victories as Bobcats. And on top of all else, this team just got a new head coach 2 days before the start of the season. Quinnipiac brought in Brian Adinolfi to fill the leadership spot on the team. Adinolfi spent 3 seasons at Quinnipiac as the men's tennis assistant coach from 2007 to 2010. While he was here, he organized the practices and assisted with the travel schedule and recruiting. Now, 12 years later, they welcomed him back to take over the head job. The way this team has adapted to the changes to their coaching staff and the absence of their home court has truly been amazing to watch, and from the students at Quinnipiac, we are eagerly awaiting your return to home ground.
Women's rugby has completed half of their season schedule and are off to a 1-3 start. After winning their opener against Brown, they have lost 3 straight games. Now, obviously, that's not good, but let's not overreact just yet. They lost to Harvard on the road, they lost at home in a close match to Army, and then they lost last week at Dartmouth. They've played some tough competition against teams who have made the playoffs last year, including the runner-up and champion in Army and Dartmouth, respectively. But their next 4 games are very winnable against teams that they should beat. Becky Carlson has this team ready to play every single week, and the leaders around, like Kat Story and Addison Walker, have the mindset to go into every game from this point forward and go 1-0. I still have faith in this rugby team to make the playoffs, and I think everything is still right in front of them. Now, before we get going here, guys, let's hit back a topic that we talked about a few minutes ago with volleyball. Let's talk about a wild card that you would see in your starting 6, Gage. Who's your wild card in that volleyball roster?
It's Georgia Donji. I mentioned her before. She really has come through into the middle blocker role and has really stepped up and taken over Nicole Legg's spot. So if Nicole Legg needs to step down, take a sidebar, like to breathe a little bit, I can trust Donji to come in and finish the job and even outperform Legg in some stakes too.
I think it's got to be Chloe Kalanui for me. She was been here with this Quinnipiac roster, and she's dominated. She just didn't make my lineup due to some of her early struggles in the season, but she's doing very well.
Well, Dylan, there's a reason why Kalanui is not being picked by Robinson, and that's because of her struggles. So that is why that's a horrible decision. I know Ganesh really has been, I know that she needs a rest every once in a while, but for being a setter, you don't really need to do too much. You just get ready in position and just move. But she's done a great job being communicative overall, and that's why I think that she can be flexible enough to and has enough stamina to get her through, because Robinson's been testing her to have her take over Katanui's spot, and Katanui honestly is not fully capable of communicating well with the outside hitters so far this season, and it's for that reason why Donji will be a great fit, because Turkish style on volleyball with Turkish style volleyball, you can't go wrong with it. Ganesh to Donji for the kill, for the win.
Well, I would just like to say I'm very excited to see what's going on at the People's United Center this weekend. With the start of winter sports, we have hockey back in the M&T Bank Center now, it's called, for the first time all season. Can't wait. Well, that's about all the time we'll have for tonight. To stay up to date with us, be sure to check out our website at q30tv.com and follow us on our Twitter at Q30Sports. For our producers and everyone behind the scenes, for Dylan Sommer and Gage Kilborn, I'm your